everybody? Welcome back. I'm Chance the Scaper. Last week we went ahead and we broke down my Scaper Line 60, took all the serpentine stone out, got everything cleaned off, got the tank completely wiped out, looks brand new. Gonna set that back up in the future. This week, however, I would like to kind of go over a few things on how I trim various plants. I'm really going to only cover 2 species today in my Dutch tank, but the trimming for these 2 species can be curtailed over a lot of different species. So the main one that we're going to be trimming today is Limnophilla repens. It's a pretty cool plant. It's this tall green guy in the back here. So typically, I mean, when you're trimming a stem plant, you know, I could take my scissors and I could just go and, you know, hack it, you know, anywhere down the stem line or whatever on an internode, and on the node it'll grow, it'll bifurcate and grow new stems and all that fun stuff. I'm not really looking for that super bushy, blown out look for these stems in the back here. This is a Dutch aquarium, so you kind of want them to be neat and uniform. So the way I trim this species is I actually trim it from the bottom. And I will show you how I do that without making a huge mess in the aquarium and all that fun stuff. But essentially you uproot the plant and you kind of measure out where you want the stem heights to be and you make your cut. And the next species that we're going to trim is the Myriophyllum gold over here. So this one I do want to be a bush, but I want it to be a nice uniform triangular bush, not a crazy stems everywhere bush. So for those, I will kind of go through and, you know, at various points, I will trim it at the internode. Go over what I'm looking for when I trim the plant. It's not just a random snip, 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 snip. Like I actually look for new growth and internodes that have new growth on them, as well as, you know, is it stunted? Is it, you know, does it look okay? Are the lower leaves gross? If the lower leaves are gross, I'm going to pull it and replant it. You want to unplug your filter and unplug your skimmer. Oh, not smash your shoulder on the table. So I always like to make sure that when I'm taking water out of the aquarium, I'm taking water as well as, you know, mulm or anything that may be in there out of the aquarium. So I don't just put the hose in here and take out water. Anytime I'm removing an ounce of water on here, out of any of my aquariums, really, I'm searching for, you know, particles or stuff to get out of there that could be in there. Like you could see that there's detritus or mulm or whatever you want to call it that is forming at the base of the substrate here. And that's something you don't want. You don't want that in there. So I guess as a bonus, I discovered that this Blyxa over here, Blyxa aubertii, it's a little too much for what I want in the aquarium right now. So you get a little bonus on how I trim that. All right, so we got the GoPro. We're going in to give you a closer look of how I do this. Hopefully I can get it going. But this plant grows off like a centralized location, kind of like a rosette style growth. The way I do it is I don't use scissors or anything like that, because then it chops the plant a little low. I use my hands just like moss, and I kind of go to the base of the plant and I give it a quick tug. See if I can get it. Just a quick tug, and as I go around the plant here, around the outskirts of the plant, it grows new growth in the center and old growth towards the outside of the plant. So I just kind of keep tucking the insides of the plant in and pulling the outside of the plants out. So, all right, so we got it low enough now that I can go ahead and pull these stems out of here. We'll get back here, and I'll show you why I trim from the bottom rather than just cutting it from the top too with this. So we'll start just pulling them out, and as you pull the stems out, you know, you go all the way to the base of the stem, just right where it's going into the substrate, and you just gently, slowly pull, and that pulls out the stem, and we toss it over there. Same deal with everything else, just nice, gentle, slow pulls. If you pull too fast, it's going to make a plume, and we don't want a plume. So the plants are out of there now, out of the way, but you know, where the plants were, there's going to be a lot of, you know, old leaves or, you know, build up mold, detritus, all that fun stuff. Same thing that accumulates anywhere else in a tank, especially a densely planted tank where flow is blocked and all that fun stuff. So I like to get in here and really get into the substrate in these areas once they're bare like this. A lot of people, you know, don't really get into their aqua soil when they do a cleaning. I do. You know, all the algae and things that you deal with in your aquarium, for the most part, I guess I shouldn't be a Sith and be so absolute, but most of the algae that you deal with in your aquarium, they start at the substrate level. So if you could keep your substrate nice and clean, no buildup, nothing like that, you know, you minimize the amount of algae that you have to deal with by a lot just by doing this little process here while you're going to be trimming anyway. So the substrate's already bare. You might as well get out all the stuff you can. That's good enough. While the water level's down, I always wipe my glass, even if the glass appears to be clean. I wish there was like a way to do this with you guys, but if you take your hand in your own aquarium before you wipe it, even if your glass looks clean, just take your hand and rub it along the front of your glass. And if it doesn't feel absolutely smooth, then you've got algae building up on there. You just can't see it readily with your eye. But if you were to take even a macro shot of your glass, you'd be able to see the little particles that are on there. So the glass appeared to be clear, but all right, so we've got the Limnophilla repens out. Some of the smaller stems here, like this one I must have chopped real short last time I did it. It doesn't really need much attention. I mean, while I have it out, this little necrotic looking piece here, I will cut that off just as some love to the plant. But the ones that really need the attention are going to be these bigger pieces here. And you can see this guy here, I've allowed the side shoots to continue to grow off of it. The main stem is through this one right here. So this is the actual main stem here. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to remove the side shoots because it's now at a height that, you know, it could actually withstand and grow on its own. I'm going to remove all the side shoots from this one. Probably even this one. So I'll take it down to here and there. And then this little piece here, if you were a greenhouse grower or if you've got like immersed bins or anything like that, you could toss this in your immersed bin or in your greenhouse. This plant grows really well immersed, really easy, and converts back over to aquatic really easy as well. That's pretty much standard across the board for all Limnophilla. So I'll just go ahead and chop these guys up to where I want them. They're going to be a little short when I first put them back in there, but these grow incrementally faster than pretty much everything in my aquarium. And just like a quick side note, I tried to keep the rambling to a minimum with this one, but we'll see how well I do with that. When you're planting a Dutch tank, you really got to know how fast things grow and stuff like that, and trim accordingly. You don't just want to go through and trim the whole tank down to an even level and then, all right, grow, because plants don't all grow at the same rate. This stem here is kind of shoddy. You can see there's a lot of leaves falling off of it and stuff like that. It was probably in the back under the moss wall, getting sequestered quite a bit from what it looks like. So I may not reuse this one. I don't know yet. But either way, I'll trim the side shoots off of it. I don't need to have the nasty stem in there. It's just not doing me any good. When I'm looking too, you can see there's like translucent leaves, stuff like that. I'm going to get those out of here. There's no reason to put those back in the aquarium. We got another big one here that is doing all right, so I will go ahead and remove it from its main stem and then trim off some of these leaves. You could also use your fingers for this. A lot of plants, the leaves pull off pretty easily. We could get a little close-up. I don't know if the light will allow it, but you can see there's a little aerial root here. That's pretty much my trim spot for most of these plants. They don't need the aerial root at all. Like, they'll regrow new roots if I cut it even way up here. But I like to give it a little, no science backing this, but I think that having that little root developed already kind of helps the course along and makes the adjustment a little bit better. But I am trimming these all at varying heights, and that's for a reason. I kind of am not going for just a wall of stems back there. I want a little bit of a cascade going on. This stem too must have been really hidden back there. But this is why we do this, you know, the lower parts of the stems, the lower parts of the plant, as it grows and bushes in, the plant realizes that these lower leaves are no longer photosynthesizing. They're not doing anything. They're just sapping energy from the plant. So the plant decides to kill it, kills it off itself. It rots, turns to mush, which feeds algae in your tank. So doing this periodically helps reduce algae as well as keeps your tank manicured looking. And I think that's all the stems that I trimmed or that I pulled. I don't see any more. So I have incrementally more stems now. Kind of arrange them by height. And I put the ones that are, you know, dualed over here. That's a little guy. So these little ones may not even make it into the scape again, but we'll start with these tall ones right here. It looks like I've got 4 good-sized tall stems here. And for this plant, I can literally just poke it into the ground and it'll stay. It stays rooted real well. I don't have to do a 45 or a 90 or anything like that. I can just put it in there and it does its thing. So taller ones in the back. There's a little bit of a crossover from the Rotala macrandra into the Limnophilla repens. That adds depth. That helps keep things, you know, looking stacked and nice rather than so divided. So that's that pretty much. I mean, I could toss this guy in here too, just for backup. I always overpack it 1 or 2 stems just to keep it, in case I need an extra stem. You never know what's going to happen. So they're in there, replanted, and that's how you trim stems from the bottom. It's very easy. Beneficial. Every plant that I grow that is a stem plant eventually undergoes that process throughout this process. Again, the reason for that is once they start to get bushy, the leaves that are underneath all that, they're useless. And the plants, you know, they're pretty smart. They know how to survive. So they're going to kill off those leaves to prevent energy from being sapping so they can continue to grow vertically. Because an aquatics plant goal is pretty much to get out of the water where there's unlimited CO2, less limiting factors, and basically, you know, rampant formula for massive growth. That's what they want to do. So real quick, I do kind of run through the aquarium once more just to grab any stuff that's floating around or anything like that.